It is finally time for my December 2025 recap. Immediately after this, I'm going to film my 2025 recap. It's definitely been not one of my better years. I'll put it that way. Plenty of things I struggled with. I talk on this channel about money, but there were also a lot of personal things that I was going through as well. Now for this recap, I'm not going to break down any exact numbers or percentages. Basically, I like to use real numbers whenever I present those things. So anytime there's something I don't really want to share with the public, I just won't get into specifics, or I'll skip the recap or the budget for that particular period. So I guess this feels like very cliche to say, but for me, December 2025 was definitely a month where I felt like I was kind of in a bit of a haze and kind of just going through the motions. Definitely dealing with a lot of burnout in certain areas of my life, and it's affecting other areas of my life. And I'm having trouble trying to figure out the best way to get through those situations and kind of just, I guess, get my head back on straight. January should be a pretty slow month. Plus I have a little bit of extra time off of work. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe that will give me the time I need to kind of reset and just refocus in various areas. As far as finances specifically are concerned, though, what I've been dealing with is being behind on bills. And the thing is, I make good money at my job. I make good money for what I do full time, but my expenses are very high for my situation. And that's really where I'm struggling. So the past couple paychecks, instead of just dealing what I would normally deal with over that pay period, I'm having to catch up on all this stuff all at once. And I'm catching late fees, and I'm catching interest charges, and all of that stuff is just really starting to pile up. This month, for example, I'll pay another $200 on top of my rent because it's going to be late again. So things like that really add up fast. Speaking of rent, that's another area of my life that has me really stressed out. There are a few things I don't like about the apartment I'm in, but for the most part, it's fine. There are a few things I don't like about the apartment, but I really want to stay where I'm at. Moving is expensive, and that's the last thing I need right now. But I'm worried that they're not going to renew my lease because I've been late a few times. I think my first 13-month lease, I was late twice, one time by 4 days, one time by 6 days. But the second 13-month lease with them, I've been late, I want to say like 5 months or so. So that's pretty bad. And aside from that being something that might hurt them, like obviously that hurts me because I'm catching all these late fees. Financially though, it would just still be much better for me to be able to stay where I'm at and not have to worry about paying someone to help move all my stuff and coming up with all the expenses needed to move. So that's just definitely a major stress point on me. So at this point, I just want to know. I'm still a little bit away from the decision point where they will let me know. So I'm just on pins and needles in the meantime, and it's really stressing me out. So definitely trying to watch every dollar, really to just get caught back up, but also in case I do have to move. I do think that I will be able to figure it out, but it's going to set me so behind when I'm just barely catching up. I did make changes on the Jetta payment. That's basically a debt that I have. This was a repossessed vehicle. Basically, the engine was blown. I couldn't afford the repairs. I needed to replace the vehicle, and I'm trying to make these payments to get this debt paid off. And I'm very torn on how I've handled this whole situation because I've really approached it with, I want this paid off and taken care of as soon as possible, which I feel like is the right mindset because I want to protect myself from the legal liability. I don't want this to be something dragged out. I don't want this to be something I'm gonna have to worry about for years and years. The vehicle is gone. It sucks, but I want to move on. But having said that, I initially signed up for payments of $317 a month. I think I paid that for 2 or 3 months. It's way too much. I can't do that, especially for something that I really get nothing for. So I basically skipped a month, called them, and kind of renegotiated. Now I'm at $235 a month, and I think that's for a little under 2 years that I'll be paying that. But now that December's over and it looks like it's going to take longer than I expected to get through January and be caught up on all my bills, I'm really second guessing that commitment because while I want this taken care of, if I'm behind on my other bills and the more real-time payments that I have to pay, I don't know that it makes sense to prioritize this debt. I feel like my mindset is right in wanting to deal with it and not put it off, but I really don't know that I can do the $235 a month right now. So that may be something that I revisit. At this point, I kind of just want to get through January, figure out if the living situation is going to change or not, figure out what my rent's looking like for the next 12 to 13 months, and then kind of figure things out from there. So I will most likely go ahead and pay the $235 in January, but I may call them at the beginning of February to see if I can figure something else out, if I really feel like I can't continue to do that. Now, my car insurance, I do want to start looking around for cheaper car insurance. I'm paying $340 a month. I was paying $380 a month. So it is steadily going down, basically in a very short time period. Didn't have insurance, which I did not know hurt you. I was using someone else's vehicle and they had insurance. So it was Like, there was no reason for me to go pay for my own insurance in a situation where I didn't need to. But apparently that does hurt you. The second whammy was I was in a fatal car accident. I was not at fault, but I was in a fatal car accident. And then the third whammy was I ended up getting a settlement check, which was like a third or fourth of what I really should have gotten by all rights anyways, had I built a better case for myself. But regardless, that is why my car insurance is as high as it is. That being said, it's been a minute since I shopped around, so I will be doing that this month and see if I can find something better. Or I may look at my plan and take a few things off. There are a couple things I can do. If I don't find any other offers that I think are a better deal, I'll stick with what I have and see if they lower my payment. That's what they did last time. I went from $380 a month to $340 a month. So I'm kind of hoping, if I don't find something else better and I stick with the car insurance that I have, that I will get a little bit of a lower rate. Even if it's not much, it will help. So that's my goal there. Throughout the year, I do want to get more bills on auto pay. So this month I intend to start with the power bill, and I'll just kind of work my way up to some of these other expenses. Speaking of auto pay, I switched phone services recently and I set it to auto pay, and guess who starts sending me messages that I need to make a payment because it didn't save the auto pay. So I go in and I try to reset the auto pay again, and they say that if you have a bank card that doesn't, you can't use it that way. Is this a joke? Is this an actual joke? What? I can't use my debit card through, that really pisses me off. Also, the phone situation. So my phone broke last month. I replaced it with this $100 piece of crap that I absolutely hate. It's so bad, it doesn't even qualify for 5G. So I do have T-Mobile $15 plan, but I'd really like to have some data. Listening to music on the road is nice, for one thing, but really for safety. Like, what if I go somewhere to an area that I'm not familiar with? I can't even use my Google Maps or anything. So that's one thing, like upgrading the phone. I do consider that to be more of a need than a want, but at the same time, that's something I would have to take care of when I can. So it's probably going to be at least early to mid-February before that's taken care of. My next bonus will either be the last paycheck in January or the first paycheck in February, depending on how they process everything this particular quarter. So I will probably figure out what I have there and put that towards the phone, even if I don't get it that exact week. There was some money in my hobby category that was mainly for my planners. So for about the past 3 years, I've been doing digital planning pretty much exclusively, and it was a disaster. It was a total, complete disaster. So basically, I got really big into the planning community on YouTube. I even tried to start my own planning YouTube channel for a while. That was a disaster. I couldn't really keep up with it, but I loved that stuff. And it was to the point I was buying planners all the time. Like, anytime there was a sale, it was something I wasn't even going to use. And of course, it's got to be the more expensive ones, not just the $10 ones at Walmart. I want to get the Erin Condrens, and I want to get the Happy Planners, and I want to get the, there was another brand I was really into that's a little pricier. I don't even remember off the top of my head what it was, but I loved that stuff. And I think 2022, I ended up buying like 12 planners at the beginning of 20. Digital planning does not work for me. I understand why people are like, I love to throw everything into my Google Keep Notes. I love to throw everything into Obsidian or Notion. Like, I get why these platforms are interesting to you. I think they're great for brainstorming and kind of mind mapping and brain dumping. And I could see myself using them for other things, but for just planning my day-to-day life and planning my finances and all of that stuff, that's just not going to work. So I want to say the total I put in the hobby category was around $100 or so, which does not include one planner that was put on a credit card. So definitely could have done a little bit better in that area, but I'm so happy with what I've got. I'm getting the use out of it. I've set them up. I know how I'm going to use each one. I also feel like I've been putting off my creative side. So I also got one planner that's going to be like a memory journal, which I've never done before. So that's pretty exciting. So maybe one of the planners could have been taken out of my lineup just because financially it should have been put off. I don't think it's wrong to spend money on creative projects and hobbies when you have the money. So I have kind of mixed feelings about how much I spent, because I do feel that I'm going to get the use out of these projects and I feel like they're going to bring me joy. But at the same time, that money was spent at a time when I really could have used it for other things. Pets was pretty normal. I did spend a little bit more than I do most months in terms of just like the food and the litter, but I did use some coupons to kind of stock up for a little bit, so I'm good for a while. The eating out budget was lowered and I did stick to it. So for last month, I gave myself an eating out budget of $250 and I did not track it very well, so I ended up spending like $317 or so. This month, I gave myself a max of $200 and I ended up with like $200.35 in eating out. So much better, but honestly, that category should probably be cut completely. It's just, eating at home all the time, doing dishes all the time, like that's a lot. Like it really is a lot. I'm sorry. Like I know that sounds so whiny and I hate to complain, but I can't do it every single day for every single meal. I just can't. Especially when I have a non-working dishwasher. And I have issues with the sink. So basically I like wash my dishes in a bucket and then go dump it in the tub. It's a whole thing. Now for my grocery budget, I do want to focus more on fresh foods while making sure I'm not overspending. So I think I'm going to start going once a week instead of every other week when I get paid. And I'm thinking that's going to be a budget of about $30 a week. I have like a full fridge and a full freezer and a full pantry right now. So I'm not hurting for things. It's just kind of replenishing those things as needed. And of course, when I'm buying more fresh foods, making sure I'm going through those right away before I go through those items that can be stored for longer. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I have for December 2025. Like I said, I didn't want to break down the real numbers this month just because there are a few things I don't want to share. But even though it was a struggle, I do think most of the decisions I was faced with this month, I handled pretty well. And at the end of the day, what's most important to me is that I have a really solid handle of how I want to handle my finances going into January. There are several things that are kind of up in the air, and that's a bit frustrating to me. But at the end of the day, I know what my priorities are, and from there, everything else will kind of fall into place.